G'day fellas, welcome to a casted game between Red Dead Sniper playing the Ottomans in the west of the map and Pesty playing the Swedes in the east of the map. Now, these players are a little bit lower than what we typically would cast. Typically, we would be casting players who are sitting about, top 10 on the ladder, maybe even top 5 on the ladder. SD Pesty currently sits, I think, about 1400 on the ladder. Red Dead Sniper, I'm not sure exactly where he is either. But I'm going to suspect, because he's matched up with SD Pesty, that probably he's going to be in the same region. Now, the map that we're playing on is Baja California. This is a map which is a little bit more focused on water than typical maps. It's got 2 separate ponds. Each pond has got 3 whales in it. It's got a fair bit of fish. And one of the things we actually see in the beginning of the game is Red Dead Sniper actually going for a dock. So this cast is going to be slightly different. We're going to be looking at things that each player can be doing to improve. We're going to be focusing on Pesty because obviously you guys know I'm a big fan of Sweden. I love what Sweden does, and Sweden is really my main squeeze, and so I can recognize what's going wrong and what can be done better by each respective civilization, or in particular, what can be done differently with Sweden. So we see this second torp coming up a little bit late. I'm not sure exactly when or why this torp is coming up so late, but ideally I'd love to see this torp up a little bit earlier. So probably something that I'd have to go back in the replay and check. We see the 75 wood treasure, 75 food treasure rather, being picked up. A good treasure. We'll have a look and see what else is out on the map for each player. We've got a cougar, a 30%. We've got a 60 wood, definitely a great treasure here. An 80 wood, even better treasure here. A stray cow. So definitely these are the 3 best treasures on the map. All more towards SD Pesty, I would say. So we've got the 75 food that he picked up. 3 villagers coming in. Let's have a look at SD Pesty's deck. Brit Japan Sea. I like this deck name. So got the Town Militia in here. Really good card. Everything in here is looking pretty good. I'd like to see maybe 1 more unit shipment, whether 8 pikes or 3 Huss. The 2 caravels. And going with the privateers, the 4 privateers. So normally I'd prefer to go for a frigate. Even though 5 or 4 privateers is a decent card, a frigate is going to give you a lot more leverage. If you ship a frigate into here, you can now shoot even further when it comes to land. Whereas if you ship frigates, you're going to be able to shut down this attack, but you're not going to be able to do as much damage on the land with it. So that's why I prefer normally to ship frigates instead. Also, there's no cost associated with it. Also got Sphere Lifeguard in the 4th age, which is definitely a great card. Not a lot of unit shipments, so I'd like to see maybe even just 5 hacker pellets in here instead of, say, the Royal Mint card. And now the 3 villagers coming in for SD Pesty onto the front line. Going to be gathering that up. He's got 14 villagers at the moment in queue. We'll take a look back at Red Dead Sniper, see what he's up to. He's got a villager that's training. We'll take a look and see what his cards are. So he's got a deck called Marine. So he's got the 1 covered wagon. So this deck almost looks like it's a little bit of everything, okay? This could be a rush with the 5 gen card. It could be an H2 boom with the water, or with the 600 and 700 wood. He's got schooners in here as well. 6 Spahi, 5 Spahi, 12 Abyss guns. So we don't see that 2 bombard card, but we have got 4 infinite galleys, a frigate, and 2 galleys as well. So not a bad deck, and also got the 1 covered wagon, so he could be opting to do the build as well if he wanted to. Now transitioning over all villagers in the transition period, going up with the quartermaster and beginning to make fishing boats. So it's got the 2nd fishing boat out now, 3rd fishing boat going up. Still doesn't have schooners yet, so normally with a build order like this for the Ottoman player, I would be opening with schooners instead of 3 vills. Now, one of the things that SD Pesty would be able to pick up if he had his eye on the ball, is that his opponent doesn't yet have a trading post, and that should be an immediate flag. When your opponent doesn't have a trading post, as the Ottomans on a trading post map, and they've picked a deck that looks like what his opponent has picked, probably a good sign that he's going to be water booming. Either that or he's AFK, and it's probably not that he's AFK. So that's probably what we're seeing. We're going up with the Philosopher Prince as well. So I know that this is, it used to be in meta, it kind of fell out of the meta in favor of the 2 settlers and the 2 cows. I think that that's probably a bit more favorable, especially in matchups where there's going to be a bit of a delay before the action hits. Now, SD Pesty might be thinking that his opponent could be aggressive in the early game, and that's what we are expecting, or that's why we're going up with the Philosopher Prince, but not always the case. So now the first villager moves out towards the coin mine. This is exactly what he needs to do. I'd like to see, we've got a 2nd villager actually moving out. It does potentially look like it's going to be taking down this, but I'd love to see a villager go down on the south of the map as well. SD Pesty now spotting the opponent, going to be going for this bear treasure. Now, STPS needs to be focusing down the Explorer here, so not focusing down the Bear. It looks like he actually is doing that. He's going to be able to kill the Explorer here very easily, I suspect. Red Dead Sniper actually hitting the second age, so getting a bit of a buff on HP, an extra 100 HP, so isn't going to be able to kill the Explorer. STPS needs to be moving, shooting, and then taking this treasure. Let's see if he gets it. STPS going, and he does a little bit of a walk, unfortunately misses out, and it means that he's going to have to walk away with his tail between the legs, so almost being able to steal that treasure. His opponent has now reached the second age. We'll take a look and see what he's sending. Picking up that wood. No second dock being added yet. We've got no villager that's being moved over to the north of the map. I would love to see. So on this map, especially if you're going for a boat boom with the Ottomans, just move a single villager over to the north and build a dock over here. Now going with the 700 wood, going to be booming off that. And so I'd love to see a dock over here. I'd love to see a dock down here. This is exactly where I want to be putting the third dock. And this is going to be a great holding point as well. Take a look at STPS, see what he's up to, sending the 700 wood out. So we still don't have those forward villagers coming out. We've got a single forward villager that's out here, a single forward villager up to the north. I want these villagers into the corners of the maps. When I'm playing as Sweden, I want my villager. This is my goal number one. This is where I want to be going. Now, I might drop down a torp as I'm on the way, but this to me, this is the mother lode right now, because your opponent is very far away from you. They're very far away from this coin mine. It's going to take a long time for them to burn this down. We do actually see a forward base going down in the middle of the map. Now, STPS, I don't think has scouted that one out. He has not. 3 villagers going to build this forward base. I'd say that that's a little too many villagers for a forward base. 2 is normally the optimal number you'd want to be going with. It's going to get it up slightly faster with a second villager compared to a single villager. And we have a look at Macro. Macro's not looking terrible at the moment. We've got 3 villagers on coin. That 700 wood now getting picked up. Don't have that third shipment in just yet because we don't have that trading post that typically Ottoman players do start out with. So I think when it comes to build order, there's definitely not enough of a committing to one way. There needs to be, you can't really be doing like a pseudo water boom and at the same time doing like an early aggression strategy. It can work with some civilizations, but with the Ottoman in particular, you really want to be getting out those triple docks nice and early, as early as you can, and really focusing on getting your villager count up nice and early, and then transitioning, whether it's to Fortress Age or whether it's to a later Age 2 playstyle. There are some civs that can do it. So if we look at, say, the Haudenosaunee, they can actually do it. So they can start dock, and they can still do an early rush. They can actually do a more effective early rush than without it. Now, Red Dead Sniper actually doing a really good job of identifying that this villager needs to be killed, and he needs to be moving out his Janissaries out over here immediately. Needs to be killing this villager. And by the same token, Pesty, having been spotted by Buttercup, needs to be running this villager back, and that's exactly what he does. But he needs to be sending out a subsequent villager in response to it. So if you're losing a villager like that with Buttercup, you need to be sending one of these villagers out up to the north as well to begin shrining, because the idea was that this villager would have eventually moved on to the other coin mines towards the north of the map, and it can't do that now. It's got to come back to the town center. So, beautiful, beautiful. That's exactly what we see. So STPesty now moving out. He could actually just be going out to herd, but I would love to see him moving out in that direction. Buttercup going to be going down as well. And ideally, I'd love to see more villagers out on coin mines a lot sooner. Ideally, what you do, if you're playing Sweden and you're starting out in the early game, don't send your villager to a coin mine. Send them right next to the coin mine. You don't want to right-click them on the coin mine. Just right-click them next to it. That villager eventually is going to go idle. And that's going to prompt you. It's going to say, hey, you've got a villager out here. Don't forget about it. And that's what you're doing. So now we've got 5 idle villagers at the moment from STPesty. I think he's tried to do a bit of shift clicking with these villagers, but has forgotten to get them back onto the tree lines. He's a bit distracted at the moment with micro-managing his army, and that is definitely a normal part of what happens. But definitely something to be cautious of is when you've got these idle villagers like that, because right now you're essentially sitting at 14 villagers when you should be sitting at 19. We take a look at the opponent. Opponent is now building up a decent mass of Janissaries, 18 Janissaries in the second age. Also going to be sending in 700 coin behind this. So 700 coin is going to be looking for a potential transition up to Fortress Age. So quite a nice build order coming out from Red Dead Sniper. As I said earlier, I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of an investment on the water on a map like this. We do actually have the Carolians now moving into melee combat with the Janissaries, which is the correct choice. They do want to be doing this. They've got higher stats than the Janissaries in range, but now they're getting caught up. They're outnumbered by a significant margin. We see 22 Janissaries up against only the 12 from STPesty, so a little bit of a mistiming. But one of the things that you can do, okay, so your opponent is over here sieging your houses. You've got a smaller army than him. What do? Well, you do exactly what Estipesti did. You move your army to a point where you know his army is going to then come and follow you. You want him away from your units as quickly as possible, and that's exactly what Estipesti did. So I think it's a great decision. Unfortunately, he did get caught out by a couple of Janissaries, so you've got to be careful of getting caught out like that. And we'll have a look. We've still got a couple of idle villages down here from Estipesti. These 2 idle villages still here. It can be a little bit difficult with idle villages, the way that they work. They don't always display like this in the top corner. Now Estipesti finally picking those villages up. A lot of idle TC time as well, so we don't actually see any villages being created. One of the strengths of the Ottoman in the early game is that their TC automatically creates villages, so you don't even have to think about it. And now we've got the Ottoman player sending in Rendering Plant, so Rendering Plant, I would criticize this once again. And the reason why I would criticize sending in Rendering Plant here is because we haven't invested enough in the water to justify this card. If we had started off with a dock up here, a dock here, a dock down here, and we'd gone full water boom, and we had, 40 fishing boats at this point, then I could totally see a Rendering Plant being a useful card to be sending. But right now, it's just simply, it's a waste, because you've got 14 fishing boats, and you're getting 30% of 14 fishing boats. It's really just not a lot. Janissaries beginning to move forward at this point. Pesti's in a bit of a difficult spot, going to be sending out those leather cannons, but he needs to make sure that his mass is retained. So he's got his mass now, 23. Carolians continuing to lose. So one of the things that Pesti is not doing, and he needs to be doing, okay, it's called what I like to call the house dance. Now, the house dance happens when your opponent is sieging down a house, just like this. You're going to move your Carolians up right to here, where actually Estipesti is moving them here, and you want to begin firing off shots onto these Janissaries, and these Janissaries are then going to react, and they're going to shoot, and they're going to stop sieging. And that's what you want to do. You want them to stop sieging, and then you're going to move your Carolians away, and then when they start sieging again, you're going to move them back. It's called the house dance. And so now we've got, so that's exactly what he's doing. So moving back these Carolians, moving back these Janissaries rather. He's got a very decent mass here. Should be able to force this back without too many problems. So we take a look at the shipments that are sent in. So no blueberries yet. He's sending in the 600 wood as well. Probably a little bit of overkill when it comes to the wood generation. We'll speed it up just a little bit. So pushing his opponent back now. A decent mass, 32 Carolians, 2 leather cannons. Going to be able to deal with any threat from his opponent at this stage. Now he's got to be careful. So the leather cannon's now taking out the Janissaries. I think he's going to fall back. Going up with the Marksman, definitely the incorrect choice. I would be saying you want to be going up with the Exiled Prince. And you want that shipment that you spend on Rendering Plant to be going into 2 Falcons. That's ideally what you want to be doing. So now he's got to be very careful. Estipesti does. His opponent might move up and potentially shoot his leather cannons, which he could have done. He could have very easily walked up and just shot the leather cannons, killing them. Estipesti, you got to be careful right here. Leather cannons getting pulled through. So doing a very nice job of just like keeping them alive, but the primary issue is with the leather cannons is that they're so weak. So 50% range resist, only 170 HP. Very, very easy to take out. This is more than enough to take out those leather cannons right now. But just very fortunately, Estipesti is just being on the ball and taking down his opponent's units. We see his opponent actually building up a huge amount of resources, potentially going to be sending in Spahi. But Spahi is not the right choice in this situation. Not against this many Carolians. They're just not going to be able to do as much work as you'd like them to do. We see Estipesti's perspective. Now going with Team Heavy Infantry hit points. So just to talk a little bit about this, I would be opting for 700 coin at this point. So going for 700 coin at this point is going to enable you to age up. You've just seen your opponent has aged up. You can't commit to the second age. You need to be going third age to try and match them. So often I neglect sending in the 700 coin because I kind of feel like it's a poor investment. Like I've already got Ironworks. I've got 170 Torp pop. They're all going crazy. These are like Ironworks Torps. They're all doing, a heap amount of coin generation. Why do I need 700 coin? Well, 700 coin right now would put you at 800 coin. You cancel your last 2 batches of Carolians and your villagers, and you've got enough resources to age up. And then you sit back, you relax, and then you hit him with a timing push in the 3rd age, and your units are much stronger in the 3rd age than his opponent is. Now, obviously, in this situation, we've also seen that Estipesti hasn't shipped blueberries in, and it comes back to tempo. Now, I would have never sent in the 600 wood. I think that 600 wood is an overinvestment with this build order. Ideally, you want to be going Ironworks straight into blueberries after your 700 wood, but with the 600 wood, makes it a bit harder. Now, we've got Estipesti moving up with the charge. I would almost say, I'm just going to pause it at this point. Moving up with a charge in this position is probably the incorrect option, and the reason why is because of these trees right here. These trees are going to bug the hell out of your units. Your best play with this many Carolians, if you want to commit to this, You walk up, you tell your units to go right here. I can't actually click it and show you guys. You tell your units to come right here, and you're going to shoot down this falconet. Now, you're probably not going to shoot it and kill it immediately, but you can get your leather cannons to finish them off. And so that's what I would be doing instead of getting off a charge. But we'll have a look and see how it plays out. He's actually been very fortunate because the leather cannons have shot down the tree on the front line. Oh, okay. I didn't see the woodcutter leather cannons in the back, but nonetheless, very well played by Esty, managing to clear that out. Minutemen also being called, so Esty Pesty doing a pretty good job of timing this attack right before the Fortress Age upgrades can come in, clearing out most of his opponent's army and just really displaying why he's got the big brain, why he was able to beat H. I didn't consider the wood chopping leather cannons on the back line. So really, that's it's quite impressive. Esty Pesty now pulling ahead about 200 score, or rather 2,000 score. His opponent's in a difficult position at this point. Sending any shipments from the home city, I mean, your best bet at this point is probably 8 gens. This is simply because he has neglected to include Abyss guns in his deck, which is definitely something that he needs to be doing, and he hasn't done. We take a look down at the south. We've got a villager being attacked by the Explorer. And now sending Sparhi just because he doesn't really have anything else that he can send. But, you know, 5 Sparhi wouldn't be able to clean up this many Corollians, let alone this many Corollians. So, not to mention the reinforcing batch of 8 that we've got coming in right now. So, a very difficult spot. So, from the Ottoman player, the biggest thing that I'm seeing from him, he needs to commit to a strategy. You can have, like, you can definitely do hybrid strategies where you go and do, I'm going to do a little bit of a rush, I'm going to do a little bit of a boom, but when you're sending in things like rendering plant for just 14 village fishing boats out on the sea, it's not enough. It is not enough. It needs to be more than that. I need to see 30, 40 fishing boats out of him, especially on a map like Baja, California, where you've got access to this second pond. It really means that your fish boom can be, you know, overwhelming. And by the same token, with regard to Pesty, one of the things I noticed in the early game, a large focus on gathering food really needs stupid OP getting called by Red Dead Sniper, and that's really what it is. So nothing to do with the way he played, just simply to do with the fact that Corollians are overpowered. H2 Corollians against H3 units, stupid OP. It really comes down to, so one of the things I'd love to see from Esty Pesty doing, sending out more villagers to make forward torps, focusing more on collecting wood. So what we might do is just quickly restart the game. I'm just going to show you exactly what I'd like to see from Esty Pesty in that early game. So we're going to go play it as fast as we can. All right, there we go. So the most important periods come down to transition period and then post-transition. So as soon as you reach the second age. And then, so these 2 villages, I want to see, like, need to be coming out and building a torp immediately. So a little bit of a delay on this second torp. Yeah, so we've got to work a little bit on the early game macro, trying to nail that down, trying to get that perfect. These are running away, so we want to try and herd them back in as well. You're doing a good job of herding this. Not too fast about this treasure down here. You didn't lose too much HP, only 62 HP, not too bad. I don't think this is gathering. Oh no, it is gathering. Where's that gathering from? Oh, it's gathering right there. It's under the bush. Okay, really nice job though, that you picked that up. One of the things that players often neglect when they're playing the Swedes is that happening. Now we see that a little bit of miss macro here, so you need to make sure that you're shooting more pronghorns onto the ground below you, so that your villagers don't do that. So they all stood up, they all shot, they all idled, they all walked at the same time. You want to have them avoid doing that. You want to make sure that you're shooting. So right here with these 2 vills, I would shoot this pronghorn and then get my town center onto that. And by the same token, I'd be shooting this in more, getting it closer. So now we've got the age up going up. So you're going up with 14, which is probably the correct choice against the Ottomans. Going to be a bit of an earlier age up than the standard 15 vill age up. What's going on, Esty? So a little much later age up than necessary. Now transitioning all villages. So this is the transition point. So what I want to see at this point, 1 villager comes to here. Start him chopping over here. 1 villager, come up to here. That's your transition. So you're sending out 1 villager each side of the map. And then from there, you're going to make your first torp here, your second torp up here. You make 2 torps in transition. You drop your barracks down. So instead of putting down a 3rd torp in your base, where you really don't need it, because you need to keep this coin mine alive for as long as possible, you definitely want to be putting your first 2 torps down here, but don't want to be putting your 3rd torp down. So now we see this one going up. So you can see that we're still over-gathering, or not over-gathering, but we're not dropping down our torp when we should be. This torp needs to be up a lot sooner. Then we're going to speed it up again. We're just focusing on the macro here at this point. So we're not really critiquing any other parts of like the build order, just looking at the macro. Still, this mine sits here idle, no torps being built on it. This is the correct play right now. If I'm honest, I'd like to see even more villagers coming out. So this villager here, so it would have started off building a single torp here. It moves over to this coin mine. Once this villager starts building torps on this coin mine, when your 700 wood has arrived, you then want to be moving out another villager over to this coin mine and start building up torps around it. So the idea is when that 700 coin arrives, you want to have ideally 3 to 4 villagers out on the map, just like this one, building these torps up. So a little bit of a high focus on food at this point. So you've got 3 villagers that are collecting food. Especially when you start off with huge crates of food, you don't need to have that. Oh, you've actually pulled them off. Wonderful. So that's perfect. That's exactly what you need to be doing. So you really don't need to focus on food. If anything, you can focus a little bit on coin. You really want to be dropping down your torps immediately. So, you know, like torp. This guy, torp. This girl, torp. You can even drop down a torp over here in your base if you feel the need to, but you got to make sure that that's happening. And then sending the 600 wood here, I think it's a little bit too slow. You're going to be able to reach, you don't need to reach max torps. Reaching max torps is like a promised land, and we don't always get there. Ideally, you're going to lose too much from losing out on tempo. So Ironworks is going to help cover you, because right now, if you take a look at your macro, okay, you're going to be able to cover this batch of Corollians, but you're not going to be able to cover the next one. If you had sent Ironworks here instead, you're able to cover that next batch of Corollians and continue that trend upwards. Oh, you actually just cancelled. You cancelled your batch of you cancelled your Corollian. But you would have been able to get out a full batch, and then you wouldn't have been able to get out the next batch. But with Ironworks, you're able to do it. Black Duke saying we're casting the game twice. Now we're just talking about all the little minutiae of what can be done to really fix up the early game macro in this position. And from a Swedish perspective, what it is that could be done better. So at this point, realistically, you know, there should be 4 torps up on this coin mine. There should be 4 torps up on this coin mine. You should have 1 torp up here, 1 torp over here, and then these coin mines should be the ones that are being not rebuilt, but they're the ones that are being built by the follow-up settlers that are moving out. So this settler here, which I thought was the follow-up settler. So that's really it when it comes to beginning or starting out the game, and then avoiding sending in that 600 wood. See, at the moment we're floating 500 wood, and I'm sure you're going to drop down those torps, but it just there's no need for it. Sweden is more than capable of playing without the 600 wood. Fellas, that's the end of the coaching session for STPesty. If you've enjoyed this video, I encourage you to leave a like down the bottom. If you'd like to see more stuff from either Sweden, Ottoman, or another civilization, then I encourage you to leave a comment down below for the civilization that you'd like to see me coaching. Other than that, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.